Welcome back to the deep dive. I was sitting with our research stack last night, looking at a set of records from the late 1980s, and I honestly had to double check that I hadn't downloaded like a corrupted file.
Chuckle. Yeah, I know that feeling.
It's one of those moments in sports where you see a stat line and your brain just rejects it. It's like, okay, surely this is a typo. Surely no human being actually did this.
It happens, but it's so rare. You see it maybe with Gretzky in hockey or Don Bradman in cricket. There are these statistical anomalies that they don't compute with what we understand about normal human capability.
Right. And today we are talking about an anomaly that I think has a legitimate data-backed claim to being the greatest female athlete of the 20th century. We're talking about Jackie Joyner-Kersee.
JJK. An absolute titan. And I'm glad you started with that framing the greatest of the 20th century thing, because usually that just feels like marketing hyperbole.
It does.
But with Jackie, we have the raw numbers to actually back it up.
Well, let's test that immediately, because I'm usually the skeptic here. I mean, we see records break all the time. Shoes get bouncier, tracks get faster, nutrition science becomes this, precision engineering. But Jackie Joyner-Kersee set the world record in the heptathlon, scoring 7,291 points in 1988.
And it is still standing today.
That is what broke my brain. It's been decades. We are talking about a record that has survived the entire modern era of sports science. I mean, Usain Bolt's records are younger than this.
It's not just that it's standing, it's that it's effectively frozen in time.
Sure.
When you look at the all-time list for the heptathlon, which, let's be clear, is probably the hardest event in track and field.
Oh, for sure.
Jackie Joyner-Kersee holds the top 6 all-time best results.
Wait, say that again? The top 6.
The top 6. It's not like she just had one miraculous day. She didn't just set a record. She lived in a stratosphere that no one else has been able to get a visa for since.
That is the literal definition of dominance. But before we get into the how of it all, I want to set the scope for everyone listening. Because I think sometimes we hear heptathlon and our eyes just glaze over. We think, oh, track and field stuff. We picture someone running around an oval.
Which is a massive oversimplification. I mean, the heptathlon is the ultimate test of athletic versatility. It's 7 events over 2 grueling days.
2 days.
Yeah. You have to sprint hurdles, you have to high jump, shot put, run a 200-meter sprint, long jump, throw a javelin, and then after all that, run an 800-meter middle distance race.
And the sources we have today show that Jackie wasn't just doing this in a vacuum. She was also, and this is the crazy part, a Division I basketball star.
At the same time.
At the same time. She overcame severe asthma. She had incredible longevity. It's that multi-sport dominance that gets me so excited. I just love the idea of the all-arounder.
Me too.
So let's unpack this properly. Where does a talent like this even come from? Is it genetic? Is it just the environment?
It's likely a perfect storm of both. And for that, we have to go back to East St. Louis, Illinois. Jackie was born there on March 3rd, 1962.
And her name itself is a bit of a foreshadowing, isn't it?
It really is. She was actually named after Jacqueline Kennedy, the First Lady of the United States.
Wow.
And you have to remember the context. She was born into a poor family in a very tough socioeconomic situation in East St. Louis. But naming her after the First Lady, it signaled this aspiration, this idea that she was maybe destined for something bigger than her immediate surroundings.
And she found her lane early on. The sources say she started running at age 9 in a community track program. But, I mean, lots of kids run track at 9. What was the differentiator? What was the spark?
The thing that really ignited the specific path to the heptathlon, it came from a movie.
A movie?
Yeah. She watched a made-for-TV movie about Babe Didrikson Zaharias.
Oh, wow. Babe Didrikson. That's a deep cut. That's a name from the black and white history books for sure.
Exactly. But for a long, long time, Babe Didrikson Zaharias was the gold standard. I mean, she was considered the greatest female athlete of the first half of the 20th century.
And she did everything right. Track, basketball.
Track star, an All-American basketball player, a professional golfer. She essentially did it all. And a young Jackie sees this movie and is just completely inspired to compete in multidisciplinary events just like Babe. She didn't want to just run. She wanted to do it all.
And talk about a full circle moment. You fast forward 15, 20 years, and Sports Illustrated for Women votes Joyner-Kersee the greatest female athlete of all time. And who's number 2 on that list?
Babe Zaharias. She placed just ahead of her idol.
That has to be the ultimate validation. It's unbelievable.
It really is. And you can see that specific type of versatility developing early. She attended East St. Louis Lincoln Senior High School, and she wasn't just doing track. She was competing in volleyball and basketball, too. A true 3-sport athlete.
But the track talent was, I mean, it was undeniable even then. I read here that as a high schooler, still just a teenager, she qualified for the long jump finals at the 1980 Olympic trials.
I don't think people realize how insane that is.
Please, explain it.
The Olympic trials in the U.S. are arguably harder than the Olympics themselves in some events, just because of the depth of talent we have here. So to be a high school student, competing against grown women professionals, essentially, and making the finals.
That's incredible.
She finished 8th, so she didn't make the team that year, but it was a clear signal. It was like a flare gun going off in the world of track and field, just saying, watch this space.
So she graduates high school, and she heads to UCLA. And this is where the story gets really interesting to me, where I think she separates herself from the modern athlete. Because usually, if you're that good at track-like world-class potential, you specialize. You lock it down.
You have to.
But Jackie, she goes to UCLA on a scholarship and plays basketball.
And let's be really clear what playing basketball means here. She wasn't, riding the bench just to stay in shape. She was a legitimate star. I think this gets so overshadowed by her Olympic medals, but we need to give her basketball career its proper due.
So what are we talking about?
She was a starter at forward for 4 seasons at UCLA.
Okay, so for our international listeners who might not follow the U.S. college system, can you explain the significance of Division I basketball? This isn't just a recreational university league, right?
Oh, absolutely not. No. NCAA Division I is the primary feeder system for professional sports in America. Playing for a program like UCLA, a legendary, historic program, is like playing for the youth academy of a top European soccer club. It is elite, high-pressure, televised sports. You're playing against future pros every single night.
And looking at the stats here, she wasn't just some defensive role player either. She scored over 1,000 points in her career. 11,167.
That's right, which places her 19th all-time for the Bruins. And in 1998, they honored her as one of the 15 greatest players in the entire history of UCLA women's basketball.
So this wasn't a hobby. This wasn't something to keep her busy in the winter.
No, she was an elite Division I basketball player who just happened to also be the best track and field athlete on the planet.
It just seems so risky, though, doesn't it? I mean, basketball is a contact sport. You're taking charges, you're twisting ankles, you're diving for loose balls on a hardwood floor. If I'm her track coach, I am sweating bullets every single time she steps on that court.
I'm sure he was. And yet, the NCAA itself recognized that unique dual-threat capability. In 2001, the member schools voted her the top woman collegiate athlete of the past 25 years.
Not just in track, not just in basketball.
In all sports. They recognized that doing both at that elite level was, well, it was essentially impossible. And she did it.
Her time at UCLA wasn't just about sports, though. There was a massive personal tragedy that happened during those years that, I mean, it really shaped her entire trajectory.
Yes, and it was a pivotal, just a redefining moment in her life. Her mother died suddenly of meningitis while Jackie was still in college.
That's devastating.
A devastating blow. Her mother was young, it was completely unexpected, and Jackie was hundreds of miles away from home at school.
And this is where Bob Kersee really enters the picture, right? Because obviously he's a massive part of her story as a coach and later her husband, but that relationship started here.
Correct. Bob Kersee was her track coach at UCLA. And he really helped her grieve that loss. He became this pillar of support for her during that incredibly difficult time. He wasn't just, barking orders about split times. He was helping her navigate a life-altering tragedy.
And that bond.
That bond just deepened over time. And they eventually married in 1986, right after she graduated.
And she did graduate, by the way.
Yeah.
Bachelor's degree in history in 1986. I always like to point that out. The student part of student athlete.
Absolutely. But while she was at UCLA, dealing with all of this, we start to see her ascent to global dominance. And it actually starts with a little bit of a heartbreak.
1984 Los Angeles Olympics. It's on her home turf in the city where she's going to college.
Yeah, and she was the favorite in the heptathlon. Everyone expected her to win. The stage was set. But the heptathlon is just brutal because of how the scoring works. It's not just about beating the person next to you. It's about beating a mathematical table. Every centimeter, every tenth of a second matters.
And she missed the gold by a whisker.
5 points. She lost to the Australian athlete, Glynis Nunn, by just 5 points.
Okay, I need you to explain this to me. 5 points. In a basketball game, 5 points is 2 possessions. It's nothing. In a heptathlon where you score thousands of points, what on earth is 5 points?
This is where the scoring tables are just cruel. The IAAF has these incredibly complex tables, and 5 points is microscopic. It's the difference of maybe 3 centimeters in a javelin throw, or running the 800 meters just 0.3 seconds faster. It is literally less than the blink of an eye.
So she lost the gold medal by less than a blink.
Basically. She might have hesitated for a fraction of a second or jumped a finger with shorter, and that was the difference between a gold medal and a silver medal at her home Olympics.
That has to be haunting. I don't know if I'd ever sleep again after something like that.
Well, she took the silver, and she also placed 5th in the long jump, which is a great result. But I think you're right about the haunting part, but in a productive way. I think that loss just fueled the engine for what happened next. She decided she was never, ever going to leave it to a margin of 5 points again.
Because after 1984, she just goes on an absolute tear.
The breakthrough moment really happened at the 1986 Goodwill Games in Moscow. That was where she became the first woman to ever score over 7,000 points in a heptathlon.
And that 7,000-point barrier, that was a big deal, right?
It was like the 4-minute mile of the heptathlon. It was this huge psychological barrier as much as a physical one. No woman had ever crossed that line. And she didn't just cross it, she smashed it.
She shattered that ceiling.
Yeah.
And that had to have set the stage for the 1988 Seoul Olympics. This is the peak, right? This is where the legend is really cemented.
1988 in Seoul is, I think, one of the greatest individual performances in the history of sports, period. Any sport. It wasn't just a win, it was a coronation.
She wins gold in the heptathlon. She wins gold in the long jump.
And in the heptathlon, she sets the world record with 7,291 points. That's the number we started with. That's the record that still stands today, all these years later.
And she didn't just win the long jump. She set a new Olympic record with a leap of 7.40 meters.
It was just total domination. She was the first American woman to earn gold in the long jump and the first American woman to earn gold in the heptathlon. It was a complete sweep of everything she targeted.
Now, you know, when we look back at track and field in the late 80s, especially 1988, which was the Ben Johnson year, my cynical brain immediately goes to one place. When you see a performance that is that much better than everyone else, the too good to be true alarm bells start ringing.
Yeah.
So we have to address the elephant in the room.
It's a fair point to raise, given the era. I mean, the sport was rife with it. And yes, looking at the sources, there were allegations. At the 88 games themselves, the Brazilian runner Joaquim Cruz made some allegations regarding drug use. Then a year later, in 1989, another runner, Darryl Robinson, accused Bob Kersee of distribution.
Okay, but we need to be very clear here. What does the official record say? Were there positive tests? Were there any sanctions?
No, nothing. Jackie Joyner-Kersee has consistently and vehemently maintained that she competed clean without performance-enhancing drugs throughout her entire career. She never failed a drug test. In an era where many, many stars were falling, she stood firm on her integrity. So the allegations were there, which was almost the background noise of track in the 80s, but there is no evidence to support them.
Okay, that's important context. So I want to go back to that number, 7,291, because to the average person, it's just a number. It doesn't mean anything. But I want to really dig into the mechanics of this. Why hasn't anyone touched it? Is it just that she was fast or strong?
This is where we need to get into the physiology of it. The reason the heptathlon record is so hard to break is that the 7 events directly contradict each other.
How so? What do you mean?
Okay, think about the shot put and the javelin. To be good at those, you need mass, you need power, you need to be explosive and incredibly strong. Think of a linebacker's physique, almost.
Right. Big, powerful muscles.
But then look at the other events, like the high jump and the 800 meters. To be good at those, you need to be light, lean, and incredibly efficient. You need a runner's body.
So the training you do for the shot put actively makes you worse at the high jump.
Exactly. Every pound of muscle you add for the throw is another pound of dead weight you have to lift over the high jump bar or carry around the track for 2 laps in the 800. It is a fundamental physiological paradox. And Jackie Joyner-Kersee is the only human being who ever seemed to completely solve that paradox.
Okay, so let's walk through the individual numbers of that 1988 record, because I think that really shows this paradox in action.
All right, let's do it. Let's start with the speed. Day 1, first event. The 100-meter hurdles. She ran it in 12.69 seconds.
Which is good.
It's not just good. That time alone is world class. That's a time that would make the final and the individual hurdle events at most major championships. She wasn't just a good heptathlon hurdler. She was a world-class hurdler, period.
Okay, so she's an elite sprinter. Got it. What's next?
Then you move to the jumps. She high jumped 1.86 meters. That's over 6 feet tall. But the long jump This is the truly mind-bending outlier for me.
Okay.
Within the heptathlon, in the middle of this grueling competition, with other events on her mind, she jumped 7.27 meters.
7.27 meters. Can you put that in perspective for me?
To give you context, that jump would win the individual gold medal in almost any Olympic Games in history. She jumped farther in the middle of a multi-event endurance test than the specialists who do nothing but train for the long jump their entire lives.
That is insane. It's like a triathlete winning the individual marathon against pure marathon runners. It shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't happen. Exactly. Yeah. Then you have the power events. She threw the shot put 15.80 meters. For a runner and a jumper, that is immense power. Most high jumpers couldn't throw a shot put 10 meters. She threw the javelin 45.66 meters. And then back to speed, she ran the 200 meters in 22.56 seconds.
Another world-class sprint time.
Elite. And then after all of that, she has to finish it all off with the 800 meters.
The dreaded 800. I mean, that's the final event on day 2. You are exhausted. You've been competing for 2 full days. Your legs are shot. And the 800 is just a sprint endurance event. It burns. It's lactic acid hell.
And remember, she's carrying that extra muscle mass for the shot put. She's not built like a typical 800-meter runner.
Right. She's carrying a thrower's build around the track for 2 laps. And what does she run?
She ran a personal best, 2.08.51.
A personal best.
Yeah.
At the very, very end of the competition.
That's the heart of a champion. She knew she was chasing history. She knew exactly what time she needed to break the record, and she just gutted it out. She found another gear when she should have been on empty.
It really highlights that she wasn't just good at everything. She was elite at pretty much everything.
And just to cap off her jumping prowess, her personal best in the individual long jump, which she hit twice in her career, is 7.49 meters. That is still number 2 on the all-time list, just 3 centimeters behind the world record.
3 centimeters.
She was 3 centimeters, a little over an inch away from holding that world record, too.
It's almost tragic how close that is. But she has the heptathlon record locked down. So coming out of 1988, she is the undisputed queen of track and field. But the 90s brought some pretty serious challenges.
Resilience becomes the main theme of the 1990s for her. The body, after all that punishment, starts to break down. The 1991 World Championships in Tokyo is a really scary moment.
What happened?
She's in the long jump competition. She's coming down the runway full speed, generating this massive force.
And long jumping is violent. I mean, the force on that takeoff leg is immense.
And she hits the takeoff board, but her foot slips. Instead of launching up and out, she loses all traction and just crashes headfirst into the sandpit.
Ouch. That sounds terrifying. I can just picture that.
It was a horrible fall. She strained a hamstring badly and had to withdraw from the heptathlon. But, and this is the absolute core of Joyner-Kersee's grit, she had already jumped 7.32 meters in an earlier round before the crash.
So she's lying in the pit, injured, but she already had a huge number on the board.
And that number held up. No one could bet it. She won the long jump world championship while being treated by the medical staff for a hamstring strain.
You can't make this stuff up. That is pure toughness. So she goes into the 1992 Barcelona Olympics as the defending champion, but now she's battling these recurring injuries.
And she wins the heptathlon gold again. Back-to-back Olympic titles. That is incredibly hard to do because of the injury rate in that event. She also takes bronze in the long jump. Her friend and rival, Heike Drexler of Germany, won the long jump that year.
But then we get to 1996, the Atlanta Games, another home Olympics for her. The expectation must have been through the roof.
It was, but her body was really starting to rebel at this point. She sustained a pretty bad right hamstring injury at the U.S. trials. By the time the games started, she was nowhere near fully recovered.
And for a heptathlete, a bad hamstring is a death sentence. You need it for the hurdles, the jumps, the sprints, basically everything but the shot put.
She tried. She lined up for the first event, the hurdles. She ran it, but you could see the pain on her face. It was excruciating. She had to withdraw from the heptathlon right there. It was just heartbreaking for the home crowd. Everyone thought, well, that's it. It's over. That's the end of her career.
But the story didn't end there, did it?
No, it didn't. She had a few days before the individual long jump competition started. She spent those days in intensive, round-the-clock rehab, ice, massage, taping it up like a mummy. She somehow got herself back out on the runway for the long jump final.
The gritty comeback story.
And it came down to the final jump. She wasn't in medal contention going into her last attempt. She had one jump left to get on the podium. She was running on essentially one good leg.
This is the movie moment.
She goes for it. She digs deep and vaults 7.0 meters exactly. And that leap put her into the bronze medal position.
I remember reading about a little bit of controversy with that jump, though, right?
A tiny bit. The television replays never clearly showed the takeoff board or the last step of that final jump. The runner-up, Nikki Xanthou of Greece, expressed some doubt about its validity, whether or not she might have fouled, but the officials confirmed it was a legal jump, and Jackie got her medal. It was her final Olympic medal, a bronze, earned on just sheer willpower.
What a way to go out of the Olympics.
Oh.
And she still tried for 2000, didn't she?
She did. She came out of a brief retirement to try for the Sydney Olympics, just in the long jump, but she finished 6th at the trials. She didn't qualify. But by then, her legacy was completely secure.
And somewhere in there, amidst all the track glory and the hamstring injuries, she went back to basketball, which seems completely insane for someone with bad hamstrings.
She did. In 1996, she signed a contract to play professional basketball for the Richmond Rage in the ABL, the American Basketball League.
Oh, right. That was the league that existed right before the WNBA took over.
Exactly. It was a fledgling pro league. She appeared in 17 games for them.
And I saw she scored a high of 15 points in one game.
It's just another testament to her versatility, proving again that she could compete at the professional level in a completely different sport, even in her mid-30s while managing injuries.
Now, we mentioned she withdrew from the 96 heptathlon because of the hamstring, but there was another constant physical struggle she dealt with her entire career that I think makes her achievements even more impressive. We touched on it briefly, but we need to dive into it.
Her asthma.
And not just mild asthma. Severe asthma.
Yes. And just think about the heptathlon again. Think about that 800-meter run. The constant exertion over 2 days. Doing all of that with severe asthma adds a layer of difficulty that is almost impossible for us to quantify. She wasn't just battling her competitors, she was literally battling her own lungs for air.
How did she manage that on a day-to-day basis?
It was a constant struggle. The sources say there were times she had to hide her inhaler because she didn't want competitors to see it as a sign of weakness they could exploit. There were meets where she was audibly wheezing after events. Running a 2.08 in the 800 meters while your airways are actively constricting, it's just unthinkable for most people.
It's incredible. And we should touch on the family dynasty a bit more. We mentioned Bob Kersee, her husband and coach. But her brother.
Her brother, Al Joyner, an Olympic champion in his own right, he won gold in the triple jump at the 1984 Olympics.
And his wife at the time.
The legendary Florence Griffith Joyner, Flo-Jo, the fastest woman of all time who still holds the 100-meter and 200-meter world records.
So you have Jackie, Al, and Flo-Jo all in the same family orbit. The Thanksgiving dinners must have been intense. Pass the gravy. Oh, sorry, my gold medal got in the way.
Right. The sheer amount of gold medals sitting at that one table is just staggering. It truly was the royal family of American track and field.
Jackie was also very vocal about the role of women in sports. She came up in the era where Title IX was the law in the U.S., but the reality on the ground was still catching up. Can you explain Title IX briefly for those who might not know?
Sure. Title IX is a U.S. civil rights law passed in 1972 that prohibits sex-based discrimination in any school or education program that receives funding from the federal government. Practically, for sports, it meant schools had to provide equal opportunities and funding for women's sports.
But just because the law passed didn't mean things changed overnight.
Not at all. And she talked about this. She gave an interview to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution where she reflected on her high school days. She talked about how her team, the girls' team, had to practice late at night because the men's teams always had priority for the courts and the facilities.
That was the reality for so many female athletes of her generation. Second-class citizens in their own gyms. You get the court when the boys are done with it.
Exactly. And she's observed the positive changes over the years. Women have their own pro leagues now, better pay, though she's quick to note it's still not equal. And interestingly, she moved into the business side herself. She became a registered sports agent and started her own sports marketing firm.
Taking control of the narrative and the business. I love that. So let's look at her life after competition. She didn't just retire to a quiet life of polishing all those trophies.
Far from it. Philanthropy basically became her new heptathlon. She founded the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Foundation, which is a huge deal back in her hometown of East St. Louis. It's all about encouraging young people in both athletics and academics. She's trying to give kids the same kind of lifeline that she found in that community track program at age 9.
She also co-founded Athletes for Hope, I see here.
Yeah, which is a great organization that helps professional athletes connect with charitable causes. It's about using that massive platform they have for good.
And I saw something about digital equity. That seems a little outside the sports realm.
It just shows her awareness of modern problems, you know. In 2011, she collaborated with the telecom company Comcast to create the Internet Essentials program.
What does that do?
It provides low-cost, high-speed internet to low-income American families. She understood that the new playing field is digital. If you don't have internet at home, you can't do homework, you can't apply for jobs. She wanted to make sure kids from backgrounds like hers weren't left behind in the digital age.
That is incredibly impactful work. And of course, the awards and recognition just kept coming long after she retired.
The list is endless. She was inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame in 2023. She received the Order of Lincoln, which is Illinois' highest honor. She was on that recent PBS show Groundbreakers with Billie Jean King.
And for the 90s kids listening, we have to mention her big TV appearance, because this was a core memory for me growing up.
Yes, the jersey.
The Disney Channel show.
In 2000, she played herself. The whole premise of the show was this magical jersey that let kids jump into the bodies of pro athletes, and a character jumps into Jackie's body to learn how to do the shot put.
And Bob Kersee played himself too, coaching the kid in Jackie's body. That is just amazing.
It's a fun little footnote, but it also shows her cultural impact. She was the female athlete you would put in a show like that. She was the icon.
So let's try to summarize this greatness. 3 Olympic golds, 1 silver, 2 bronze, 4-time world champion, and that world record in the heptathlon that has stood untouched since 1988.
And don't forget, her long jump personal best is still #2 all time, so close to another world record.
It's just a resume that leaves you breathless.
Yeah.
But I guess the final question is, why haven't we seen another one?
That's the big question, isn't it?
I mean, 1988 was a long time ago. In athletic terms, it's an eternity. Humans are supposed to be getting bigger, faster, stronger. Why hasn't another JJK emerged?
I think it comes down to 2 things, really. Specialization and money.
Follow the money.
Always. If you are an athlete today with the raw speed to run 22 seconds in the 200 meters, or the explosive bounce to jump 7.3 meters in the long jump, your coach, and more importantly, your agent, is going to tell you to focus on that one individual event.
Because it's easier to win. Or easier to train for.
Because it's easier to monetize, it's safer on the body, and you can have a much longer professional career. The heptathlon is a meat grinder. It destroys bodies. And financially, it's often much smarter to be the best in the world at one thing than to risk constant injury trying to be the best at 7 things.
So the modern sports economy actually disincentivizes the kind of incredible versatility that Jackie had.
I think it does. We train kids to be specialists from age 10 now. Jackie Joyner-Kersee was both a throwback and a visionary at the same time. She might have been the last of the true all-arounders who could genuinely dominate in basketball, sprinting, throwing, and jumping, all simultaneously at the highest level.
So that leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on. Was she just a great athlete? Or was she a singular, unrepeatable moment in athletic history, a product of a time that is now gone forever? Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Until next time.